President Biden has evoked a Cold War emergency law to help solve a critical shortage of baby formula in the U.S. Here he is signing the executive order under the so-called Defense Production Act. The president explained just how the order will increase supply to consumers.
The Defense Production Act gives the government the ability to require suppliers to direct needed resources to infant formula manufacturers before any other customer who may have ordered that good.
Well, charities in the US say that the support can't come soon enough. These are the empty shelves in just one grocery store in Washington, D.C. And non-profit organizations that assist mothers say this is a typical sight. Women are coming to them in a state of desperation.
They are in crisis. When they are calling to us, sometimes they are angry, often they are frustrated, and very often they are sobbing.
Well, the BBC has spoken to some mothers in the US.
I can't be doing this. I can't be running to 10 different stores every single month trying to find her formula. What else can I do? Every time we would see it in the store, we would just buy it, even though she didn't necessarily, the can was not empty yet, because we were like, who knows the next time we come if we're going to see it.
It's hard physically, mentally, financially. Sometimes I do cry at night.
So what's causing this shortage? Well, according to the market data site Datassembly, the industry emerged from the coronavirus pandemic with existing shortages. 11% of formula was out of stock in November last year. By early May, that shot up to 43%. Well, to a large extent, it's because of what happened here. This is Abbott Nutrition's principal formula plant in Sturgis, Michigan. The company ordered a recall of 3 types of formula in February this year, as reported by the New York Times. And here's Ellis Preston from CBS News.
Several babies developed bacterial infections. 2 of them actually died after drinking the formula that was made. And there were recalls, but again, that plant was shut down. Now, a deal was also reached recently to ramp that plant back up, but it'll take a couple months before that is fully in production.
Well, this raises further questions. How can the closure of one manufacturer's plant fuel a nationwide shortage? Well, part of the issue is a lack of market competition. Abbott and 3 other formula manufacturers that you can see here dominate the industry. The so-called Big Four account for 90% of baby formula sales, with Abbott previously estimated to account for 43%. Let's discuss this further with Jessica Owens-Young, who is assistant professor in the Department of Health Studies at the American University in Washington, D.C. I wonder if you can just help us to understand, how can this situation become so critical, and how can such few companies have such a monopoly over something that is so important?
Yes, and thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. As you mentioned, there are only 4 major companies that account for about 90% of the market share. And some of the reasons have to do with our rules and regulations around infant formula. So only 2% of our infant formula is imported, which leaves 98% of our infant formula having to be domestically produced. There's also rules around new infant formula being introduced to the market that may be discouraging for other companies to try to enter the market. And so you have a really small market to begin with. You have tough rules for new competitors to enter the market. And some also argue that new companies may be hesitant to enter the market due to infant formula just being a less lucrative market compared to other products.
And what about the low-income support scheme, the federal support scheme, which means that states have to take formula from one particular distributor and they get a rebate for that? They save a lot of money, but it then creates a problem with supply.
Absolutely. So you're talking about the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, also known as WIC in the United States. And something that's interesting about WIC, as you mentioned, companies compete for exclusive contracts at the state level to offer their products to WIC participants. And what many people don't know is that WIC participants account for about 50% of all infant formula purchases in the United States. And so if you're thinking about one company dominating a market at the state level, and about half of the folks living there on average are just buying that one product, you don't have any competition unless you receive a special waiver to be able to purchase other products. And so that's another disincentive for competitors entering the market.
And so we've got this wartime legislation that's being enacted. Just briefly, if you will this help?
I think it will help in the long term. I'm not sure how it would help with immediate needs. You know, as you all showed earlier, there are families who are desperately trying to feed their infants now. If it takes some time to ramp up production and to get the products to market, it's going to take some time for those families to feel any relief. So in the long term, yes, but there are things that should be done immediately to support these families.
Jessica Owens-Young, Assistant Professor from the American University in Washington, D.C. Really good of you just to talk us through this.
Thank you for having me.